Hi, and welcome to another episode of the $5 Million Project. So, you might notice something a little bit different about this episode. There is no video. I've realized that one of the biggest blockers, the reasons that I haven't been recording these so frequently, is just the time it takes to get things set up, all the lighting and the camera equipment and that sort of side of things. And I'm incredibly busy, and it's no good because I'm not delivering enough content around the actual journey as I intended to. So what I've decided, at least for the time being, is that I'm going to make this audio only. This way I've only got to grab a microphone, chat about what's going on, what's been happening, notes from my diary, that sort of thing, and away we go. The other big change is that the $5 million project itself is going to morph into more of a personal diary rather than just being about the Roi-AI journey. Obviously, we're going to continue talking about Roi-AI, but there's other bits and pieces that are going on that, from a selfish perspective, I like the opportunity to sort of get off my chest and talk about and think about. But also, I think there's things that I'm doing that might be relevant to people that are listening to this. So we'll be talking about Roi-AI, my other business, Prominence, which I'm in partnership with Scott, who's also part of Roi-AI, and just life in general. So let's kick off with Roy. As you can imagine, a lot has changed since the last episode. We've now got over 40 customers, actually nearly 50 customers across 5 countries, and we've just celebrated sending over 2 million emails since we officially kicked off in February. So we're seeing some absolutely fantastic momentum. We've also got a really great team in place, and very shortly we'll be welcoming a couple of new people who are really going to help propel recruitment automation further and faster. So over the last few months, we've also built out a full video-led knowledge base. Automated onboarding is nearly there, and we've got a support ticketing system. We've started a review process to get reviews on sites like Capterra and that side of things. We've run multiple events, both online and in person, which included me heading over to Melbourne and Sydney. Very shortly, actually, I'm going to be going to Hobart and Queenstown for some other events, and hope to be lining up some travel over to the UK, probably as we move into 2023. And the other big thing that we've done is we've also signed a preferred partnership agreement with Job Adder. So, lots and lots of opportunities coming through on that side of things. And there's so much more that we've been doing, but really, from a product perspective, all our energy is on tweaks, fairly minor tweaks just to improve customer experience. We've got a product, it works, it delivers results. It's not as user friendly as I would want it to be. So all the little minor tweaks that we can make, just so that instead of it taking 2 steps, it takes 1 step. That's what we're focusing on. That's what we're doing right now. And then once we've completed that, then we're going back and starting to add some additional functionality. And looking at, who else do we partner with? Are there other databases and things that we might want to work with who might benefit from Roi-AI itself? So all the signs are really positive. However, personally, I'm sort of sat feeling a little bit in a holding pattern, which is probably why I found the time to actually get one of these recorded, because we're in a funding round at the moment. And it's one of those where it's sort of slow, and then can go really, really fast, very, very quickly. So it feels the name of this episode is The Calm Before the Storm, and it very much feels like that. You sat here, it's about to fly again, it's about to go very, very busy, and it's just trying to appreciate things are a little bit quieter for a week or so before that upwards momentum, which is hard for someone like me because I'm used to going at 500 million miles an hour all the time, and those little pauses in between, you sort of say, thinking, oh, it's coming, it's coming, and sort of trying to do everything you can to get ready for it. So I thought, actually, this would be an interesting topic in terms of the funding to talk about. And I think, from my perspective, one of the reasons I always wanted to get into startup land was about the financing and the funding and how that all works and what goes on. And I know, speaking to some potential employees that I've been chatting to over the last month or so, their interest and their reason for sort of considering a business like ours is they want that exposure, they want that knowledge about how it works. And having done funding and financing for a little while now, I feel I've got a bit of my head around it. There's still a lot to learn, but the reality compared with what you see on TV and potentially what I thought it would be compared to what actually happens is a little bit more boring and a lot more salesy. So as a recruiter, back when I first started my career, I was a salesperson. That's effectively what recruiters do, and it hasn't really changed. Yes, we've got to sell to customers. We've got to get them to use the product. That side of things is fairly easy because we've got a good relationship with job adder and the product's good, so it kind of sells itself. But also we have to sell the product to people that are going to help fund it, investors, and it's an ongoing thing. It's something that doesn't stop. You're constantly contacting new people, having conversations with people about the product, about what their background is and how they might get involved. So, I think if you're running a startup, you have to be prepared to be in sales, because without that, you're not going to get the funds in that the business needs. We're actually, from a sort of position perspective, the round we're working on at the moment is the last round before we move into a formal seed round, probably in early 2023. That's what we're lining up at this stage, and that's when you really start talking about needing millions of dollars rather than hundreds of thousands of dollars. So due to the stage and I guess the relatively small amount of money we're after right now, and the investor group that we're speaking to is pretty broad. Um, as an example, we've spoken to people that have reached out to us actually off the back of this podcast, a couple of years ago when we first started this, who said at some stage they'd be interested in investing. So, follow up on that lead that came in, booking calls with them, demonstrating and showing the product, having further conversations. They're the types of people you end up speaking to. But because of the network of the other founders of the business and myself, it's been quite easy to have conversations, and I've been surprised by how willing a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life are to have a conversation about investing in tech and sort of getting on board. It's amazing, really, when you think about it, sort of who you know and who they know. Another example is I actually met a chap, or must have been 7 or 8 years ago now, as part of my other business. He ran another business himself, and we bumped into each other at a couple of conferences. So I reached out to him and said, "Hey, we're now running this business. Would you be interested in getting involved?" And it turned out I didn't know him well. I hadn't spoke to him for 5 years or so, but he actually was. And so that conversation led to some positive follow up, and actually it's still in the works at the moment. So I think a lesson around funding is those early stage networks and networks you build when you're not necessarily thinking about funding can really help as you start going through the process, and the other networks that you get with incubators and startup funds and all that sort of stuff will most definitely help. I think from a business perspective, we're really lucky because our growth rate is good. The revenue, the monthly recurring revenue is increasing. We've got a really strong partner, so we've got a great story to tell. So from an investor perspective, they like what they see. It's really finding the right group of people who can bring skills and experience and money to the table, so that you have the right mix to grow the business, but also keep the business so it's appealing to those bigger investors and funders as you start moving through the seed rounds. So, yeah, from a Roi-AI perspective, that's kind of it at the moment. As I say, we're just in that calm period. We're expecting it to spike almost any day now, and I'm sure that once it does, the momentum is going to be pretty huge. So hopefully, I can find the time to get back to these. So just fairly quickly to talk about other topics. So the other business, I haven't mentioned it before. It's a specialist marketing agency with nearly 40 employees. The company's called Prominence, originally based out of New Zealand. The back office, if you will, is in Malaysia, and then they've got offices in Australia, the UK, New Zealand. I say they because I don't really consider myself an employee of that business anymore. My involvement is really limited to sitting on the board and helping out here and there as required. We've been lucky enough. I'd like to think maybe a bit more than lucky in that we've got three fantastic directors who've come through the business over the last 3 or 4 years, and so Prominence has been going 8 years, I think now. And these three directors have really taken it upon themselves to drive the business forward, and make it a truly marketing leading global business. Um, One of the big topics being discussed at present in Prominence, that it's sort of gone to board level really to sort of discuss what is done around it is time and how it is charged for, because it's a service based business. There's a lot of people hours utilized, and it's making sure that our customers pay enough for those people hours, and things like wastage and things don't occur too frequently. Just an example of this. So if we've got 40 people, they're all working 40 hours a week. That's coming on for 6,500 hours of work time available every 4 weeks. So 6,500 hours of work time is a huge amount. We should be able to, you know, go through staggering amounts of productivity and deliver so much. However, what the team of directors are struggling to know is where all this time goes. Inevitably, there's some wastage. That's absolutely fine and acceptable. Um, but there's not the information in the business at the moment, or the knowledge and visibility to make really truly informed decisions. We've always tracked a bit of time, so we've got a rough idea of how much time goes into each customer, but not to the granular level, and then particularly around the different levels of people operating in the business. At the lower ends where there's a lot more visibility, but at the higher end, the end where the resources are expensive for us, but also what their skills should be expensive for our customers. That's where things get lost. A senior getting sucked into a project for 4 or 5 hours that doesn't get charged to the client is a significant waste of money, but we don't know that. We're not there to have those conversations. So, and the other thing is, the Prominence itself was a small business. I started it from my conservatory, and there was always a tendency to say yes. Someone wants to do something, you want to retain that customer, you say yes, and you don't worry too much about the bottom line. As the business has grown, that tendency has stayed. We're a delivery first, customer satisfaction first business. We always want to do what's best by the customer, and have sort of forgotten ourselves. But the message the directors are now putting to the team is that if we can better understand our time, if we can get a handle on where things are going, what's happening, we can generate more revenue from this business, and that means that we'll have a larger fund for pay rises, for trips, for bonuses, for the whole business to succeed, and for those customers that might not get the love they need to get more love, and those that get too much, maybe they need slightly less, or they need to have a conversation about pricing. But the reality is it should be better outcomes for all. So for the last 3 or 4 months, they've been implementing some software to give us better tracking and better visibility than we already had. And I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what comes back in terms of insights, where time goes, what happens, because I think getting our head around that will make a massive difference to that business, and be a significant factor in helping it grow, to the size and ambitions that these leaders have for the business. The last thing I would say on Prominence is, I mentioned how good it is to have these three directors come through the business, but anyone else that's running a business and looking to step out, it's so critical to find people that share the vision and share the values that you have, and then to give them a piece of that business so they feel like they own it and they can lead it and do what they want with it. These guys have near full autonomy over the direction of the business, and I'm absolutely ecstatic that we've actually been able to give them a piece, some equity in the business themselves. So, as it grows and as it's more successful, then they can see some return on their efforts themselves. So lastly, this is a bit new for me, and we'll see how it goes. But I thought I'd just touch on what's going on in my life in general. So alongside managing, running Roi-AI, so I have the board involvement with prominence there. They're really my two key business focuses. I do quite a lot outside of school with coaching football and scouts and all that sort of thing with my kids. I'm also sort of fairly actively training for my second marathon at the moment. I did my first one 4 years ago and then sort of fell out of shape again. So had to sign up and start getting back into shape, which is going pretty well at the moment, but it does mean I'm running sort of 40 or 50k a week. So that's starting to take its toll on my time availability. The other big thing that my wife and I are working on is we bought a property sort of mid-COVID, which has the room and scope for a pretty big subdivision. So we've been working on the plans with an architect and planner to subdivide one property into three effectively. That's been going on for the best part of a year, and our plans have been at council for 6 or 7 months now, with lots and lots of iterations happening. And last week we actually caught up with a valuer just to see how the market's changing, and definitely in New Zealand. I'm not so sure about the rest of the world. The property market is, I guess, a little bit unstable. The valuer's exact summarisation to me was the timing couldn't be worse. Property slumped, interest is up, and there's a massive shortage of building materials and labour. So you sort of think to yourself, oh, great, it's really good timing. But the upside, the positive, if you will, is that if we can make things work in an environment right now, then as things recover, there's potentially more upside to be had. So our option really is to sort of go back to the drawing board, or just continue with our plans and maybe delay them a little bit, which I hate delays. I hate things going slower than I wanted them to, but I think the unfortunate reality is what the timeframes that we'd initially had are probably going to have to slow quite a lot, potentially by a year. But it does mean we can hopefully continue to stick to what was fairly much our original plan. So personally, very, very busy, but enjoying all these different aspects of everything that's going on, and enjoying the Roi-AI journey so much at the moment. It's such a lovely feeling to have a product that's successful, that customers get results from, that doesn't have too many bugs, isn't falling over, and is just doing what it should be doing, alongside having a great team there to support and further develop it. So as we come out of this holding pattern, I'm looking forward to a very, very exciting second half, I guess, final quarter of the 2022 year, and hopefully 2023 will be really, really fast and see some dramatic expansion and growth of the Roi-AI business. So now we're audio only. I hopefully will find the time to record another one fairly soon, and very much look forward to speaking to you again in the near future.